you know.
Hi, welcome to our March school board meeting. I'd like to welcome all you guys, call this meeting to order, and ask for approval of the agenda.
We'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, anyone? Motion passes. Mrs. Schultz will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we come to you tonight with a thankful heart, thankful for our incredible staff, students, and family that have put in so much effort this year and so many changes in a year with what we needed much endurance and perseverance for student achievement so we could have our students in the classroom. We are thankful for all our volunteers, for our stunt team that's here tonight, an incredible job they did. And we look to you for vision for next year and planning what's best for our student achievement and for everyone in our district. We do this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, item 3.2, recognition of the Show High School stunt team. Can they come up? Or is it
Yeah,
too
I
many?
think they could come up right there and come on up, ladies. Share some excitement.
What up? This is our state champion stunters are actually undefeated. Our stunt team is, by the way.
Nice.
They still have a competition. It's just our thing. It's a good luck thing. They won AIA, which is almost like winning the lottery. I'm telling you, it really is for cheer and stunt.
Wow.
Our full team also took the private sector for Arizona State cheer, and the stunt team won that one also. So they have first place in that too. And then stunt took AIA on Saturday.
Great.
For the 6th year in a row.
Awesome.
So we have two seniors, which we always hate to see our seniors on our stunt team, but we always love it too. We have Melissa McNeil, Marley Binney, Bryn Beans, who's a junior, Randy Lopez, who is a freshman, and then Chloe Flake, who's a sophomore. And then on down the line, we have Sarah Chevalier, who is a junior, Jesse Chevalier, who is a freshman, Gabby Harvey, who's a sophomore, JC Perkins, who is a sophomore, Casey Perkins, sorry, they're really good friends, who is a sophomore, Elle Dyer, who's a sophomore, Keely, who's a sophomore, Caitlin Cotney, who is a freshman, and of course our awesome Jade Larson, who is a sophomore. That's going to be a rough year.
No injuries this year?
Pardon?
No injuries this year? No? Guys? Oh, sorry.
No, we've actually done really well. We've had, like any team, hit and miss here and there, but nothing catastrophic.
Are you
so.
able to go to nationals? Is that still going to happen?
It just went virtual,
Okay.
but we're still competing. We're still going to go
Okay.
through with it. They still have an amazing chance
Great.
of taking that also.
Is that in
So,
April? Is that in April? Is that next month or
In the end of April.
It's-
end of
yeah.
April?
End of
So-
April, 1st of May.
So our stunt team took second in,
And nationals
qualifiers for
qualifiers.
nationals.
So,
and then our show cheer took fifth. So we have a great chance to bring home a national championship to the
Awesome.
White Mountains.
Sweet. Yeah.
and being the year that it, yeah, I was gonna say they're like so. Being the year that it is, it's really quite the triumph, in my opinion. That it's been
Yes.
so rough, just for them to navigate through everything and be still top notch in their sport. So,
Congratulations.
we're super proud of them.
Congratulations. You guys are awesome.
really hard.
And I am gonna toot Melissa's horn a little bit. She was offered, a scholarship to a D2 school in Michigan, top cheer school. They are national champs.
Wow.
4 or 5 years running now, and they want her for their top team.
That's awesome.
Oh.
That is huge. That's an amazing personal achievement for her.
Is she going to go? Are you going to go?
Oh, she better go. I should have said she has accepted
Great.
that
Good.
scholarship. So that's awesome. We're super excited for our team and all the places they can go.
Awesome. That's
Bianca,
wonderful.
you guys come up front and I want to get a picture of all of them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You guys want to take a picture? Okay, and then can I just say that our next item is 3.2 legendary staff, if we go down there? You want me to come back? Okay.
Yep.
Coaches are going in. You guys going in?
Go in there.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Come on. Good job.
We were going to have them demonstrate a stunt, but the roof is too low.
I do a little one.
You know what, they can, so, if you want.
No. I'm not going to be the reason why the knot didn't work. No. Congratulations, Chair. We're going to move to item 3.3. We'll invite Mr. Marchant to come up to recognize our legendary staff members from the high school.
Okay, thanks for having me. All right, you all owe me a blizzard if she cries. I'll bet you.
No crying.
No crying. Okay, I'm honored to present to you Mrs. Diane Young as the Shoalo High School Legendary Staff Member for this month. Diane has been with Shoalo High School for over 15 years as a registrar in our counseling office. And it's not that often that I get to say this, but she truly meets the definition of the word legendary for Shoalo High School. Diane knows everyone. And when I say everyone, I must emphasize the every in everyone. So I often get reference checks on past Shoalo graduates. And my first stop is always over to Diane's desk to ask her the scoop on the kid. They could have been enrolled for just one semester 8 years ago, and she'll still remember where they moved from, what truck they drove, where their parents did, what their parents did for work, and what their grades were. She remembers every last piece. This level of understanding of all of our current and past graduates is evidence to how well Mrs. Young develops meaningful relationships with all of our students. In speaking with students and staff about Diane, here's what they had to say. She looks out for the underdog and encourages success in all students. Another person said that she is super professional in dealing with people who are upset, which is a skill we all know about. She helps cover her coworkers' duties when they are sick and does a great job at every role in our staff. She has a servant's heart. And I would say that this is probably the top comment if I could say so. She has a servant's heart, always organizing all of the outreach to families at the holidays with meals and supplies. And she coordinates all of our birthday cards. She hand makes birthday cards for every single person on staff, and coordinates all of our luncheons and gatherings for staff and students and stuff. She just is the first to jump at that. She just loves serving others, and that's what makes her so successful in this role. the last thing that I had that someone had stated is that Diane is one of the best coworkers I have ever worked with and is always positive. And so I couldn't agree more with what these people have said about Diane. And, thank you, Mrs. Young, for all you do for everyone at Shola High School.
Thank you.
Take a picture.
We'll invite Mrs. Clark. Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Lark. In light of Dr. Seuss Week. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity tonight to have us here. It's my pleasure to recommend Ms. Cody Lark as a Shiloh Unified School District legendary staff member from Shiloh Junior High School. She joined our staff last year, and we had been talking quite a bit before she was able to come and be a PE teacher with us. And she has just been such a fantastic member of our staff and has really added to our physical education department. So we're grateful to have her. We say Coach Lark because if you say Ms. Lark, it sounds a lot like Mrs. Clark on the radio. So sometimes she responds to student issues. It's pretty great. But Coach Lark's passion and energy for teaching support her students to achieve success in PE. She refers to her students as my girl, which I think just speaks to the heart of who she is and why she's teaching. She is encouraging and empathetic to young women's growing, developing bodies and talent. And in previous school years, she taught math and social studies. And so her PE classroom is incredibly structured. The girls know what to expect and they meet their objectives. Coach Lark is a person who leads by example. She is kind, understanding, and empathetic, and her students then emulate her attitude, as been evidenced with some support they've given to a special classmate they have. And they will compete fiercely, and then in the next minute be cheering each other on and celebrating victories for each other. In other parts of our school, Coach Lark has been supporting us outside of the classroom by being an official. She's an AIA official, and she generously basically donates her time to do junior high events. And she has been participating this year as a member of our PBIS committee to help us revamp our behavior management system. So I am grateful for her and her.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Lark, Ms. Lark, and also Miss Young and Mr. Martin. Thank you for coming up and doing that and being legendary in your efforts. Appreciate that.
Okay, item 3.4, discussion and approval of new official posting location.
Madam President, there's no longer a posting spot in the district office.
Just can't get to the glass
Can't
wall.
get to the wall. So we need to find another place to put it.
I think it should be on campus somewhere. That's where most of the people are.
Which campus?
Maybe the high school.
High school?
They like lots of company over there.
Y'all want
I'm sure
more
a lot of
visitors?
people go there every month to look at it too.
Yeah.
It'll increase the traffic a lot.
It's up to you guys, but it can't be at the district office anymore.
No. Okay.
So, you guys,
If that works, the high school, we can post it
Is that
right
work
in
for
the high
Brandy?
school,
Yeah, that works for
right on
me.
the outside window.
High school, okay?
can we make a motion on it?
Oh, yes, please.
I motion for the new posting place to be at the high school.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Is Mr. Clark on?
No, he wasn't able to make it
Yeah.
this evening, Madam President.
Okay. Item 3.5, discussion of staff surveys.
Madam President, we can certainly look into, I know during the work session, the board had mentioned it's a lot to digest.
Yes.
It is.
Each of the surveys, there were 3 surveys, 2 of them were over 60 questions, and then one was probably about half that, so the results are pretty significant. If you'd like to, I would like to just express appreciation to those who participated and shared their thoughts. I think that it's very insightful and very valuable. But if you want to go in depth, we certainly could take the time tonight, but I know in the work session you expressed the desire to have a special board meeting where we could just digest it all at once. So
I think it would be useful to do that
that okay
as well.
with you, Kelly?
To wait for the study session, another work
Special session just for
That's
this?
fine. But I too wanted to thank everybody who did participate in the staff survey, whether you were certified, classified, administrative, and the other auxiliary departments. I really feel like we want to get a feel for what's taking place in the district and know where our employees are coming from. And so we do have an active ear that we're trying to get a temp of where we are district-wide. So those who may not have filled out the survey, it is confidential. We encourage you to do so. Mr. Housley said that he could open that up. So I'd like to open it up for another week if we can, so that we can get a little bit more feedback. And those of you who maybe did fill it out, please encourage your cohorts and other employees to fill it out if they haven't, because we really do want to know where we are and how everybody feels. So thank you very much.
And we want to do that more than once a year, right?
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam President, I shut it off just today to collect the data. I will turn it on in the morning, so it'll be available
Perfect.
again in the morning.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Housley.
Are we skipping 2.6 because we didn't get to work on that?
Well, we're on
Oh,
We're on
part.
3.
Okay. Your superintendent report, are we skipping that?
We
3.6,
could.
Mr. Housley, superintendent report.
Madam President, members of the board, I just wanted to highlight a few things that have been going on. In the work session, we talked a little bit about a fun event that we are forecasting into July, and I encourage staff members who would like to participate in the development of this to reach out to Brandy and express their desire to participate. But we have had 2 committee meetings. One was just vision setting and kind of figuring out where to go with some community members. Stephanie Ray was one of those community members. And Sue Hilgard is the other I remembered. She also participated, and we kind of set up some areas of responsibility where we felt like it would be good to start moving forward. So now we're going to be looking for team members to try to get boots on the ground, because it's a big event. It's a back to school community resource fair. The target date is about the 2nd or 3rd week in July. So we can have it before school starts. So just imagine, this is kind of where the discussion was. I'll give you some insight into the vision setting, right? We want it to be a place where a family can go and maybe get a hot dog, right, and some drink, but that's not it. Walk in and get a haircut, get their brand new haircut right before school starts, get their teeth examined by a dentist, and get a toothbrush and toothpaste, and then go over here and get a backpack full of school supplies, and then go over here and see what resources are available at MPC and other things, workforce development opportunities, so they can peer into what work available for work, or chances to go to college, or just about anything that would be a community resource. We are looking to bring to bear in this community resource piece. Have an opportunity where families can participate in a day of service as a part of this event, where on campus we have service events going on where they can participate. So the committee really felt like it was a chance to give back, but it was a chance for those who were receiving to also give, in a real give and give type of environment. And I'm sure it's going to be much larger than I'm just sharing with you right now. The people that have started to set the vision. They're really go-getters. They have big hopes and big dreams for this. When I first talked to Stephanie about it, she goes, "Oh, this is going to be big. We need lots of people." So there's your invitation. We need lots of people.
Can I ask, is the expectation that this is going to be focused mainly on our district families, or is it going to be open to the entire White Mountain community?
This is focused on our district. There's no way for us to tell necessarily that, if someone walks in from the Blue Ridge School District or whatever, but
We won't turn them away,
right.
but we're not going
Certainly
to be.
the focus is on our students and families and starting and celebrating the start of our school year. That's where the focus of the committee is. And bringing all those resources to bear. I'm sure they would certainly love to refer those services out to other districts too, if they were wanting to bring something similar to their community, but that's where it is. Pretty excited.
Who do they reach out to if they want to help?
They want to help, reach out to Brandy, and Brandy has been setting up those. We're trying to meet pretty regularly. The meeting is about 3 weeks away. We're going to try to meet every month, and it might narrow down when things really get running. Might be a little bit more of a commitment, but I think it'll be a nice, fun opportunity. Our district office has been kind of in limbo. We're still at Whipple Ranch. And where the business office has just been inundated by the audit. We're hopeful that it'll be the real difficult part of it will be done on Tuesday, but Vanessa's been reassured that it would last through the month. So
They have all of March.
they have all of March to do it. But we do have the building over in the Bison Plaza where the Sunrise Air Ambulance place is across from Circle K. The only thing we're waiting there is internet. The project manager on the internet side was in the hospital for a bit. They were waiting for a part. It came in. Now we're hopeful that installation will happen and we might be able to move in over spring break or shortly after. But we want to make sure that the transition is good. That the things that the business office is doing isn't disrupted by a move and no internet, right? So that's where we are right now. Spring sports have started. I know softball, I think, plays their first game tomorrow. I'm not sure about baseball, but baseball, track, all of the spring sports are going. And finally, at this point last year, they weren't getting to do anything. Right. So I'm glad they're on the field. It is an abbreviated season like the rest of them were, but there aren't any masks required for spring sports, thank goodness. And then girls high school basketball hosted the first state game that team has hosted since 1984. They did that Tuesday night, and they beat Globe pretty handily, and they play Snowflake tomorrow in Snowflake. I don't know what they're going to do for staff or for entrance limitations, but if you have a chance and it's open, certainly it would be worth the watch. They've played them twice this year. I think we match up really well with them, and they have a good shot with a pretty good team. One senior on the team for us, so a lot of good things to come. We also, Madam President, I provided you with kind of a draft copy of a budget resource guide. We're working on formalizing that. It'll be formalized at, and I'll hand it out to the budget committee. When you look at the calendar, one of the things that in a typical year, and that's what it expressed in a typical year, moving forward, we want to start what we're going to do on Monday after spring break. We want to start that back in November and December timeframes. But we will meet with the budget committee. That'll be teachers and staff, and we have a pretty diverse group of individuals who have signed up to be a part of that. I think there's 18.
Mm-hmm. Include community members also.
In this one, this particular committee meeting is just for teachers and staff. There'll be another one for administration. And if we were going to host one with the community, I'd like the board to host to get community feedback in an environment that's kind of just a town hall kind of a meeting where they can share their feedback. And then those recommendations from those committees will come back to the board for consideration as we work through the budget process. I'm a little disappointed at this point this year where the state legislature is with the budget. They're more focused on other things. And so we don't even have really good projections yet from them. So we're hopeful that will come out soon, but we're waiting while they go through all these bills that are really bad for education, and hopefully they don't pass through. So
Can you get the budget resource guide emailed out to everybody? Maybe get some copies on campuses?
yep, as soon as it's out of draft status,
Yeah, besides on the website?
I feel like I'll have that out of draft status the first budget committee meeting, and then from there we'll disperse them from there. That's my report, Madam President.
Okay. Item 3.7, call to the audience. Nobody? Okay. 3.8, future board agenda items. Nothing?
Well, other than that, I'd like to have a special
Special board
meeting to talk about
Wanna do
the
that?
survey and the,
In March?
as soon as possible, yeah. So,
Okay.
I agree.
and make sure that everyone can attend.
Yeah, all 5 of us. Randy,
You're
have you-
asking for a lot.
I know, I see that. Okay,
At least attempt.
we can try again.
Yeah.
Okay, item 4.1, approval of overnight and out-of-state travel. Mr. Housley?
Madam President, we are excited to be able to try to offer these things and make them available. Again, as you just heard from the chair, they were excited moving that way, and then it just went virtual, right? And some places, some states are different, but we want to open the door so if the opportunity comes. So we are recommending Mr. Marchant brings a recommendation for approval for Cynthia Whipple to participate in an honor choir performance for honor choir students in the Lincoln Center, Alice Tooley Hall in New York City, New York,
Have they done this before?
March 30th through April 3rd. Have they done this before? Not to my knowledge.
I don't
Awesome.
think so.
Sounds amazing.
Can they come back and sing for us when they get back?
Yes.
Or before, or guess when I guess when they get back,
I
huh?
don't mind people serenading.
That's part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
A little, yeah.
That's really awesome. Hey, before we go on to that, can I do a plug for, we had our first grad night committee, Mr. Merchant, where is he? Somewhere around here, on this past Monday. So if anybody wants to volunteer, Mr. Housley, you have a senior. I didn't see you
My
there.
wife was
I
there.
didn't see you represented. I saw your wife there.
She was probably volunteering me for everything.
We all did. Whoever wasn't there got nominated.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can reach out. The next meeting is the 31st, right, Ben? At 5:15, is that right?
5:15.
5:15. If anyone wants to help or if they want to give donations, contact the high school. Okay,
Yes.
so I'll entertain a motion for approval of,
I'll motion to approve for out-of-state travel as presented.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.2, approval to combine EDP students grades 3 through 12 and move the program to the Shoalo High School campus to existing classrooms.
Madam President, we were able to discuss this a little bit in the work session. Would you like me to just give a brief overview? I know we went a little more lengthy in the work session. I'll give a brief overview and then Mrs. Marsh can add on to it. She's here this evening. A committee met early on. Mrs. Marsh, Eric Rask, Miss Rumses, Mrs. Leatherwood, one of our EDP paraprofessionals and a parent, met to discuss the status of our EDP program. And I want to just speak very carefully about these students, but I want to give you an idea of what might a student need to classify as an EDP student. So the P on the end of that means that they're a private placement. Okay. In most school districts, a lot, especially in rural Arizona, around us, that private placement happens outside of the school, if it happens at all. Typically, a private placement is the last step before maybe in another district might have to consider a residential treatment facility. So that these students need a more restrictive environment to feel successful. To you and I, that might feel like it's really restricting and we wouldn't do well in there. We shouldn't. But it's an environment that they feel home. They feel more at peace. They feel like they can be successful and have opportunities to take chances and do things. That doesn't mean that they don't have opportunities to, their disability doesn't come out, right? It's an emotional disability. And so there's needs. Specifically, an EDP program some of the requirements as far as the state is concerned, if you have one, is that these students have specific needs. They qualify for this placement. They also are funded at a different level so that the services necessary can be there. One of those things that need to be present is mental health services. They have to have access to that because that's part of their disability. We have had the EDP program for a number of years now. I don't know, Mrs. Boyer, you might remember how long ago it was.
No, wow, at least
But
10 years. I
It's
would
been
say.
a good chunk of time because we felt like it was important. I would imagine. I'm just thinking about how I would feel about it. I think we created the program because we felt like we needed to meet the needs of those students.
Right.
And by doing so, we created a program that other districts, quite frankly, ask us if they can send their children to. Because like I said, they'd have to do it to a private facility somewhere else. We have the only program on the mountain. So we get several inquiries, can't even speak, about this program. And so they wanted to look at it and to revamp the program. One of the challenges that they identified is the fact that the mental health counselor is back and forth between the two. We looked at the location and at the high school campus, and we have another building north of the main campus. Right now, art and wood shop is in there, and the high school EDP is in there. We also have a space for Dr. Rask, our school psychologist, and then we have a place where we have our talent lab. And so that facility there, the committee looked at it and evaluated flow, evaluated the ability to keep students kind of in their areas so that you didn't have a lot of mixing of students. And they felt confident to make the recommendation of that, where to place it, to bring the two EDP student or teachers that we have under one roof, with the paraprofessionals that we have under one roof, with the mental health counselor under one roof, to be able to better meet the needs of those. There are some inherent questions that people have about it. Whether do you put third graders through 12th graders in the same building? Do you? What does that look like? We want, obviously, you and me and the committee, and the parents, we all want to make sure and ensure the safety of our children. And so that was discussed by the committee also, and then exploring all the ins and outs and the needs and what a program would look like. How can we do a better job of partnering with parents in this? Because as you can imagine, none of us, for our children, no matter where they stand in life, did we get a manual that says this is how you help your kid out. And if I did, I would have needed 4 of them because they were all different. And they all presented their own little challenges. So that's the premise of the recommendation, is trying to meet the needs of these students in a more concise way, a more economical way, and being able to bring those services under. As I said, Mrs. Marsh is here and would be glad to expound on that explanation, or also answer some of the questions I know you have from the work session that would be great to have. Mrs. Marsh, you want to come on up?
Good evening. Do you have any other specific questions?
I think the main question a lot of us had was how the parents of the younger children felt about their kids being in such close proximity to the older kids, and if you've talked to all of the parents in the program.
So we had tentatively reached out to mostly our junior high and our 3 through 5 grade students, because those are the ones that are most impacted by this. And this is a program where the relationship that the teacher and the support staff have with parents is very interconnected. These parents we have like daily contact with often, just because of the nature of their students. And so really, as we talked through that with them, they were really supportive. And part of it does, I believe, come back to that relationship. When we build that relationship of trust and show that we have the best interest of their students, that comes first, they really were supportive. I know there's some concerns with, what does that look like? And how do we have these third graders potentially there? It's a very highly staffed program. That's part of the requirement from ADE. And so we've really talked about there will be very intentional training. A lot of those things are already in place where these students have lots of supervision. So the third graders will not go to the restroom by themselves. There's enough support staff, and that's part of the piece of having everyone under one roof. Is it makes that efficiency of using our staff much better. We also have talked about, sometimes recess and some of those things are concerns. And we really found, even with our younger students on the junior high campus, these kiddos tend to do better with structured outside activities anyway. So we just integrated different things with them. When appropriate, we actually go back to Nicholas and take those students back to their site to do different activities and be with their peers. So those were how we addressed some of those issues.
Beth, one of the questions that was brought up in the work session was we've had 3 through 8 under the same roof this year. Can you speak to the success or failures of that program this year with having those grades together?
So with the students together, we've had both, really. And I think part of our frustration has really been getting people in the right seat on the bus. We've had some great teachers in our staff, but it really takes a special heart to work day in and day out with these students. Our vision at the junior high was to have 2 certified staff with that grade band. And we've been unable to fill that second position. And so that is a challenge. And that's a big part of what brought us to this place, was identifying, what skill sets do my teachers have in the district? Who would be a good fit with this program? Who wants to be a part of it? Because they really have to believe in it. And so those were some of the things that we struggled with. We struggled a little bit. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? But I think while the space was great at the junior high, and my original premise was that was a great place for it, it's the old wood shop. And there's a lot of wide open space in there. So as we came to the high school and toured the 3 separate separate classrooms and how they're divided up, it really lent us to that's going to be a better space for them physically. We're actually still going to use the kitchen that we had so graciously donated. So we're still going to use that as a life skills area, and we'll walk kids up there and have that be a life skills time for them. But those are some of the things that we've found at the junior high.
One of my concerns were that having the younger student population feel isolated, from amongst their peers, even in the same building, and being, I just kind of worried about them being away from them and not being amongst the general population. I think about the kids, that are in like our regular classrooms. They're going to be the ones later on who are going to be advocating for the students who are EDP kids, or, I kind of wondered how that would, how you feel that would be for those students, especially the younger ones.
So I think the most important thing about this program is it's really driven by such individual needs of students. And the needs of these students are so unique from what we would call our general education students. And so I think when you take into consideration what they really need to be successful, that those things are what needs to come first before we worry about integration with peers. So we want to worry about, are they learning the social skills? Do they have the emotional regulation that they need to go out to recess and to play ball with other kids? And so those pieces are so fundamental that's really what we have to focus on with them.
All right. How many students do we have that are in our district boundaries, and how many of them are under open enrollment and out of district?
So right now, I believe that they are all our students. As Mr. Housley referred, we have surrounding districts asking us to tuition their students in. But in our time of not being able to fill positions, we really felt like it was important we service our own students first.
Okay.
And we have plenty of need in our district.
Do you feel like we offer our staff members who are involved in this program the training to help them to feel comfortable and confident and, prepared for, they face a lot of diverse situations,
It's very
and
challenging.
So do you feel like we properly prepare them for this role?
So I think we can always do better with training, always. We really made an effort this year to really dial in the training specifically to what they need in this very unique environment. I think that's one thing that really excites me about having everybody under one roof is, and I don't know how much Mr. Housley shared with you, but we're really going to kind of pull them away to really be a school within a school. And because that's going to allow me and the staff, I mean, the mental health specialist is great. Dr. Rask also provides PD for this group of people. But it's going to allow us to take those Fridays and really dial right in into what they need to be successful, all the way from, whatever PD or specific trainings that they need to also team building. Mm-hmm. Because when you'll have multiple teachers and then, 6 to 7 support staff, you have to work together as a team. And that's a unique environment just to put them, any adults, in one room or in one space.
What are they doing on Fridays now?
There's still plenty for them to do at this point. They're lesson planning with their teachers. We use that as a time to provide PD when it's needed. Fridays are a lot of time also just to staff students. If we had a hard week and we had a student really melt down, maybe we need to review their behavior plan, talk about what happened with that student. How can we do better next time? So Fridays will be similar, but it's going to be more consistent.
If you had a mental health specialist at the junior high, would that help also instead of putting them at the high school?
So we have one. So we have Christine Rumses is split right now between the 2 sites. And one of her biggest concerns this year has been wherever I am, I'm needed
That's
somewhere
what I'm
else.
asking, if you had one just for the junior high.
So we do. We also have somebody just for the junior high.
She's indicating if we had one just for the EDP program, junior high. If this wasn't moved together under one roof, would
just the
hiring
mental health
another
specialist.
mental health specialist and putting them to service the 3A EDP, is that a solution?
I really feel like the teaching piece is a huge, that's been a factor also in not being able to hire people that were a good fit or having applicants. So I also feel like this piece of.
But you're taking the 2 teachers we already have to work together, right?
Mm-hmm. But at the junior high, I only have 1 teacher right now. So even if I added a mental health specialist to the junior high, that was your question, right? Mm-hmm. I would still just have 1 teacher at the junior high and then 1 teacher at the high school. Part of our goal is that as those teachers work together under one roof, they're going to know all of the students. And so because part of what we also do with these students is we're getting them ready to transition out into the world. We want them to be productive members of our community. And so we do a lot of community-based experiences, service projects. Our oldest students, we actually try and place them in businesses so they have some real life work skills before they leave. But part of what happens is if I send, I want to send a certified teacher out to do some of those activities. Now I don't have a certified teacher on site. Where when we have 2 certified teachers in one space, they know all the students, they have relationships with all the students and their parents, then that allows for the cohesiveness of the program. So I feel like that outweighs the mental health piece.
That's a lot of students to supervise by yourself. That's what.
Well, you wouldn't. You have. That's why you have all the paras, and they're in separate classrooms. So remember, part of them may be out with the other teacher. They wouldn't all just be there with one staff.
Guys have anything else? Do you want to vote on this tonight without Brandt and
I don't.
John here tonight? I feel the same way. I think
we
it
all
should be
need to
studied a
there.
little more. We discussed it quite a bit during the work study session.
We did, and I go back to just having a third grader in the same vicinity of a 12th grader. I just
Yeah, I have a hard time with that.
I'm going to have to be convinced of that. So if you guys could, just reach out to all the parents. I just want to make sure that this is the best thing to do for students, especially for the younger kiddos. And so that's just where my concerns lie.
And I'd like to
mainly.
do site visit at both of them during the school day. Okay. Not when you guys, just to see, give everyone a better idea.
I would love to do that as
Yeah.
well. So maybe we could do that as a board outing.
Madam President, members of the board, if you had specific feedback from each one of the parents of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that said, this is absolutely how I want it to be, would that calm your reservations about 3rd graders being with 12th graders?
Not
With me
really.
personally.
Not for
yes.
me. I wasn't excited about them being with 8th graders. And I think peer exposure with good role models is so important. And I don't think isolating them and then hoping when they're, in 10th grade that they're going to go into
We'll bring more research to you that explains EDP because it's a different population
It's very unique.
than what we.
And if we could find out, like Kelly asked, if we can find out how many kids are Sholo residents, how many are out of district, and the budget for that program.
They're all in district.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have any out of district students.
And Beth, right now, are they all virtual or are they in school right now?
They're in school.
Okay,
We
good.
have a few distance learners at each site, as with any population.
Right.
But the majority of our students are here on site with us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Do we need to say we're tabling it or? Need to vote
I'd
on
like
it,
to make
or-
a motion to table
don't have
this
to vote on
item.
We don't have to vote on it?
You
Okay.
can table, you
Okay.
have to vote to table it.
Okay. Go ahead, Kelly, sorry.
Okay, so I make a motion to table this item until the April regular board meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.3, approval to pay for off-contract time for certified teacher to prepare professional development for the teachers of English language learners. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, Mrs. Dietering has done this in the past. We have to provide some training to the teachers for ELL students, and she's qualified to do that training. So I would ask for your approval of Mrs. Dietering preparing and providing this training with teachers.
I make a motion to pay Mrs. Dietering for her off contract time.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.4, approval of PSI tutor. Mr. Housley.
All right, it's opening up, Madam President. As you know, we have a couple of sites that are under what we call targeted support improvement. And that's specifically, we have a population of students who, mostly special needs students who performed in the bottom 10% in the state. And so we have to target those. We got a grant, and there's a TSI committee at each of these sites. And this is to approve the tutors that will be provided through that TSI grant to give specific targeted intervention to these specific groups of children. And so I bring these for your approval this evening.
I'll make motion to approve the TSI tutors as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Item 5.1, approval of resignations, retirements, and terminations. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, members of the board, for your approval this evening, there's a number of of resignations, retirements, and terminations this month. And as we get into the upcoming months, this is kind of the time where these things happen. So I bring to you, there's a number of them. They're available on the website, but I bring them for your approval and consideration.
There's one of the resignation letters that, at least when I've tried it, I haven't been able to look at it. There's
Yeah,
one.
it just pops away.
Do we have a copy of that we can see?
Which one is?
Let's.
Let me see why.
And when they do their letters, can we ask that they say what department they're leaving?
Resignation right here.
I don't know why it didn't pop up on you.
Thank you.
Sometimes they're very complex, sometimes they're very simple.
They're simple ones.
So I don't know that we can require what they look.
No, but they can say where they're
We can
leaving,
tell
right?
you what
Are we doing exit interviews with Tina when people are
she
leaving?
hasn't been able to develop. That's on our agenda of things to develop. For your approval, madam.
I know. I'm waiting. Would it make a motion, Melissa?
No, I make a motion to approve the resignations, retirements, and terminations as presented.
I'll second that motion, and I just wanted to thank everybody who has worked for the district, and I'm really sad to see some of the names on here, but I'd really like to thank Mrs. Sloan and Mr. Pratt. They've been here forever, and I love them, and I wish
Mr.
them
Pratt's
well.
coming back, right? Mr.
Mr. Pratt's coming back under ESI. So
He is. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I did not know that.
he
So-
hasn't given his last day yet.
Oh,
But we'll
thank you,
miss- we'll
Mr.
miss
Pratt.
Mrs. Sloan.
And Mrs. Sloan, we will miss you, and we'll miss all the other names on this list as well. So thank you for your service.
First and a second, all in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.2, approval of new hires, renewals, and transfers. Mr. Housley.
Madam President, members of the board, before I present these to you, I'd like to invite the committee. They expressed an interest in coming before you and sharing the outline of the process that was followed behind the recommendation of our new football coach. And so I'd like to invite them to come up, and there is a little PowerPoint slide that Vanessa's going to pull up for us. So I don't know who the representatives, I think, yeah, you guys got the short straws, I remember now.
That's what I was going to say. Interesting being on this side of the
I
table.
know, it's nice to see you again.
So, Mr. Whipple and I have been asked to come and present the process, the selection process, to the short straws. Get it there.
Yeah. Does it click through?
They should, hopefully we'll get, can we get it up on the TV? I'm speaking to the man behind the curtain. There you go.
We can click to the next one. There we go. What we have here is a timeline. It took about a month from start to finish with when the job was posted. We sent out a community survey, and we'll go through each one of these explaining a little bit more. The committee that was developed, the pre-screening process, the top tier interviews that took place, and including the interviews with the superintendent and student athlete, and then when we finally came to our decision.
So we had a good problem. We had 21 applicants. Candidates were local men interested in the program, in-state, out of state, and even one from out of the country. Their experience was varied from high school and college experience, and their skill sets range from being coordinators to head coach.
This is the response we got back from the community survey. It just kind of breaks it down with the people that responded. We have 60% that were parents that responded, and about 17% that were students, and then about 23% that were community members that responded to the survey.
So as you can see, there were 5 key areas that were on the survey. This first one builds a culture of community service and involvement. 43 out of the 65 people who addressed the survey, 66%, felt that that was a top priority to have community service and involvement.
The next one we got feedback on was building relationships with lower level football programs. And about 46 of the 65 respondents said that this was their top priority.
The third one, prepare student athletes to play in the next level football program. This spread out a little bit, but still 27 of the 65 selected that was important.
The next one was teaches and models life skills and characters to student athletes. 60 people responded saying this was a top priority. And even with the responding remaining 5, it was still suggesting that that's definitely a top priority.
The last one, hold student athletes accountable to academic, behavioral, and on-field expectations. 60 out of 65 felt that was a high priority. I love that one said that was a low priority. I'm guessing that was a student.
Might have even been your son. Who knows?
Could have been my son.
And then the next one was competing for championships. Majority of the people, 35, still said that as a priority. And you can see there with the other 14 and 12 still categorizing that as a high priority, but factoring in.
So you can see this kind of little bar graph on how those results came in. At the end of the survey, there was an option to provide any additional information that the community thought would be important to the selection process. There was an overwhelming number of open response comments that specifically mentioned wanting someone from outside the community picked as the next Cholo High School head football coach. So we felt like that was important as a committee that we represented our community to grant that response.
So before we even mention the committee names here, those were all ideas and the feedback that we discussed before even looking at any of the candidates. And then this was the committee that was developed. Byron Clark, Jerem Lewis, Ben Marchant, Dave Nicholas, Daryl Perkins, Joel Reed, myself, Derek Whipple. And yes, that's a committee that was involved in selecting our next coach.
So the pre-screening process, we went through a lot of information that first day. It was a long meeting. We looked at applications, resumes, reference letters. Mr. Nicholas and Mr. Marchant both shared any reference phone calls that they'd made. Then there was a 5-minute video or an essay submission. Each of the applicants was provided with the question, why would you like to be the head coach here at Cholo High School? And 2, what sets you apart from the other applicants? And like I said, we poured through all this material in the first evening.
Are you ready to go forward?
Yeah.
So from the pre-screen questions or that process, 4 candidates emerged as the clear top tier from everyone else. These top candidates were invited for a more in-depth interview. We came back on a separate day and were able to interview these individuals. We asked all 4 candidates the same 10 questions, scored each question out of 5. No discussions were made or discussed, no decisions were made or discussed at the time, and the committee members were given the opportunity to sleep on it and take time with their response.
All top 4 tiered candidates received a secondary interview. The day after we interviewed them, they met with Mr. Housley and 2 of the graduating senior athletes. I think that was a neat portion to this process. I think the athletes are a valued resource when in choosing a coach. They know how to pick them. So they asked the candidates a handful of questions and kind of a more conversational format. And then Mr. Housley and those 2 athletes ranked each of the 4 athletes on their own.
The committee reconvened on multiple dates to review the input back from the superintendent and from the student athlete. They reviewed their final scores, discussed their thoughts, their final rankings, and the decision was unanimous for our selected candidates. I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Carlo Hernandez, who is here tonight, comes with quite a bit of experience, and he spent 2 years as a collegiate player with Adams State, 15 years as a head coach, 10 of those with Coolidge High School, 5 of those with Casa Grande High School, and during that time he was able to accomplish 6 times showing up as a finalist. 2 times of those were as a state champion, and 1 time as an independent state championship as well.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you. I know it's a lot of big time commitment. You're on an interview committee.
It was
Yeah.
great. I love the process.
It's a great process.
I think it was a fair way to give everybody the same shot.
Mhm.
It's great.
Awesome.
Sounds like it was. Thank you.
Can we meet our new coach? Or do you want
Mr. Hernandez?
to put him on TV? Everyone has a face. They can start finding him.
Madam President, as he makes his way up, we better
Want us to
approve
motion?
him. I would ask that you would recommend, I would recommend that you approve the hiring of those who are in there, which includes Mr. Carlo Hernandez, our head coach, and as for the upcoming school year.
I so motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion passes. Welcome to Sholo.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any questions for him? Put him on the hot spot.
No. We'll wait till after the first game.
Wait till after the first game.
I figured if I can't beat you, I'd join you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I did have a question. Are you looking forward to moving up to this area? And
I live up here currently.
oh, you do live up
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Okay, great. So you know everything about Sholo then. So
More than I'd like to.
yeah, right. Well, welcome.
They've stopped me from winning my third championship. Like I said, I couldn't beat them. I might as well join them.
That's right. Absolutely. Welcome.
It was nice
Thank
meeting you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Approval 5.3, approval of substitutes, item 5.3.
Madam President, Candace Kuntz and Laura Kohler as classified subs for your approval and consideration.
I motion to approve substitutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.4, approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, for your consideration this evening, Sierra Daniel as a volunteer assistant high school track coach, assistant track coach Trinity Moore, assistant track coach Vern Hardy, and that would be replacing Justin Butler, who was board approved, and splitting a stipend, Randy Vigos, volunteer.
A motion to approve the stipends, volunteers, and event workers is presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.5, approval of contract revisions. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, due to the resignation of one of our paraprofessionals who was covering our credit recovery lab, we need to cover that lab. And we currently have a member on our staff who is working 35 hours, and it's been requested that they cover that staff. By doing an additional 5 hours, that would be appropriate to cover the loss of that staff member. And then also Helen Olson as the junior high custodian, moving from a 0.62 to a full-time equivalent. And the other one that I just mentioned was Gabe Moya, moving from 35 hours to 40 hours to finish out the rest of the year in that credit recovery lab.
Make motion to approve the contract revisions is presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.1, discussion and approval to enter into agreement with ASBA for policy manual review.
Madam President, members of the board, I'll just cover both 6.1 and 6.2 in the same comment, is that I know it's a priority of mine, it's a priority of yours to have the policy manual reviewed, and some of the inconsistencies or things that we might consider that way brought to the forefront. And the last revision was done in 2010. And I would like to have your blessing to go and acquire that service from ASBA, and I'm asking to go through a rigorous process. So, but it'll be good. I think it'll be well worth it for the district to bring all those things up to date and get it back to you for your approval at a later date. And then the second one is also, and I'm not 100% sure that this is the way that we want to go. We've started developing our employee handbook, but we might want to go and consult with ASBA and their employee handbook services. I just want your blessing to be able to do that should we decide that that's actually the way that we need to do. But I think the first step is getting the policy manual updated first, and then decide if we need major revisions on the employee handbook.
I'm really excited about these. I think it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, it's time. It's been a long time since we've done a review. And I love the idea of doing the employee handbook with them hand in hand so they can kind of help collaborate in the wording and such. And I think it would be good because looking through some of the the surveys from the staff, they talked about not knowing, like, well, following the chains of commands and understanding the policies. So I think this will be wonderful to provide those services.
I do too. And I think that part of the frustration that all of us as staff members, all 300 of us feeling, you as a board might feel it sometimes, is that a policy was back in 2010, right? And it hasn't been approved or reviewed or anything like that recently. And so when we have to apply that, you who have to set policy, me who has to apply the policy, it's frustrating for all of us because we may not even be in the same mindset that it was in 2010.
Right, exactly.
And so it creates an air of frustration and friction that doesn't have to be there. So
Exactly.
I think this will be a positive experience.
Yeah. So I make motion to enter into an agreement with ASBA for both of those services, policy manual and an employee handbook.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.1, budget review.
Madam President, I'll give some time to Mrs. Beecroft to share with you.
As I mentioned earlier, we're in the midst of a full-on audit for last school year, 1920. I've been working for the past 6 months very rigorously on trying to reconcile our grants that we have for the district. I don't know exact count. I think we're at 10 to 12 grants, maybe-ish, including the CTE grants, none of which were reconciled to the county. At this time, they've all been ADE approved and they are reconciled to the county. So it's just very rigorous to do that. We are continuing to work on that with all of the other funds that we have. And with the completion of the audit's undergoing right now. So most of my energy is on the audit and getting them the data that they need to then tell us what we need to do. So at the completion of the audit, they will do a presentation and of course give you that data in easy to understand format. And then I do have the final budget revision for this school year. I am working with consultation with a gentleman out of the Valley that works for Peoria Unified, just to make sure that he's looked at our AFR, he's looked at the 1819 budget, just to make sure that it's as accurate as we can be for that final revision in May that's coming. That will include, the 100th day ADM. 100th day was just March 9th. So a lot of it's just ongoing. I hope in May, he's actually going to help me with a presentation to the board on the final revision, so we kind of know where we're at going to next year. I mean, I wish the timing was earlier because fiscal 22, the budget, it's already in the preliminary stages. So that is ongoing concurrently.
When is he coming up?
That'll be in May for the final revision.
Yeah, in the fiscal year, those who are new to the board, the final revision is in May. And then we begin the process of adopting the next fiscal year's budget in June with the proposed budget, and then the adopted budget shortly into July. So that final revision wraps things up, and then we move into thinking about getting the next fiscal year in line. It can't be understated or overstated enough that the work that Vanessa's put in. She has put in countless hours. Some of you have been through audits, and I say this in general to everyone. Some of you have been through audits on the best of days, and the best of days, you pull your hair out. It's high stress. It is very, very demanding. Throw in a fire where all of your records that they need for the audit reside. And you can't have access to them. And when you do, they're wet, They're covered with smoke. You have to pick through them and try to find them if you can get to them. And it's been a very, very long process for her first audit. I just want to express my appreciation for what she's doing because her and her team have gone over and beyond, and they're doing it with, in my mind, grace and patience. Sure, it's frustrating. Sure, it's tiring. Sure, it makes you angry sometimes, and you come in grumpy because you have to bear that, but that's expected. They should. Yeah, but I haven't seen that. They've done it. They've been patient. They're trying to work through it as a team, and I know it's going to come out on the positive end of things. And I really value that, and I think we all should applaud those efforts. Until the completion reports were done for the grant, all the money that was sitting in a queue ready to be carried over had to just sit in the queue to be carried over. And so the work that it took to get those grants in line and being ready to carry over, I could see on Tuesday when we shared the carryover, Jamie shared the carryover with the administrative team, the principals in particular, and there was I think a collective sigh of relief. Oh, we have some money. There's some breathing room.
What's the carryover?
The total? I don't know what the grand total is because we broke it down by site. But there was significant carryover.
Estimate?
An estimate, Jamie?
Or
Just say Title I.
Title I was
You had a little left with the CARES Act. You have money left?
CARES Act has its own deadlines. That's not even the grant she was talking about. So we have Title I, Title II, and Title IV. Those all had carryover funds in them with specific uses that the principals now can begin to work on and prepare for next school year. They can even use it to build back some things we talked about, some things that might aid in that. The CARES Act fund, I'll touch base on that just a little bit. I'm going to share with you some pretty interesting projections, but the first round of CARES Act was just there to get everyone through that initial lockdown piece and figure some things out. It was in relationship to $600,000 doesn't sound like a little bit. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is. Don't get me wrong, but when in the grand scheme of a $15 to $20 million budget, it's just a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about that was helpful, and that helped with some of the starting school on August 17th, but it by no means would have gotten us everything that we needed. But it did help us. We are now, part of that was to get enough student devices. If we had to do distance learning, we could do that. Unfortunately, supply chain didn't get us the stuff until January-ish. And so, but now we have enough computers that 3 through 12 is basically one-to-one student.
Are they out in the classroom now?
Jamie worked really hard. You came in and helped.
I can open boxes. I'm just wondering if they made it out of the tech department after.
find more boxes.
So that's exciting that we were able to do with that. The CARES Act that was funded in December, we were waiting for that number. We were cautiously optimistic. They told us it would be more than the summer one, and it was. Our projected budget for that is $3.1 million. And I say that, and it's really exciting, but there are some contingencies to that, right? If you could spend it for Title I, II, and IV, it's a slam dunk. You can spend it for technology, it's a slam dunk. There are some things that you can't spend it for. That's a small bit, but you also have to justify all your spending to come back to COVID relief and opening. Okay. Now, the federal government just passed stimulus bill number 3. That is, in my last meeting with the State Department, he was just throwing out a number that they had projected 2 weeks ago before it was passed. And he goes, you think this is enough? Here's the number that we're projecting. So the amount they gave us, $3.1 million, was $1 billion to the state of Arizona. Okay. they're projecting that this new stimulus bill, the education portion was just over 130 million or trillion, whatever, billion.
A lot.
It's a lot of money. Okay. So they projected that the state of Arizona would receive about 2.7 billion, which is 1.5 times more than they received the first time when we got the 3.1. So if you just took that into consideration, we're projecting, we don't have any firm numbers with us, but the number could be around the $6 million. And so but 20% of that has to specifically be, like when I said it's earmarked, 20% of that goes specifically to addressing gaps in student achievement and that piece. So we kind of brainstormed some things on Tuesday with administration. We talked about some getting a framework and then bringing on teachers to fill in that framework of, all right, how do we get this done and what does the program look like? And we're going to try to figure out that 20%, because 20% of 6 million is right around $1 million. So that's quite the investment in gaps.
Can that be used in the summer, or is it?
It can be used anywhere between now and to December of 2023, I believe is what the term on that grant is. So the first one, the spending time limit ends this December. The second one is the next December in 2022. And the third one is 2023. So they've just balanced out as they've gone through. Anything else that you want to say about that, Vanessa?
No, you covered it.
Is our enrollment still down?
Yes, I want to bring that. Let me just tell you where we are. The report, the 100th day was just yesterday. Saw some great old people at Linden. They looked really short though, but they looked old. Our 100, there's 3 ways that you look at ADM. It's regular ADM, that's physical kids that are there, and then there's ADM that's weighted, and then there's weighted ADM that has add-ons. So when you're talking about an EDP student or a student in first grade, there's their physical, and there's a weight for them, and then there might be add-ons. So if you look just specifically at our weighted daily average with add-ons, we are down. And remember, so like an EDP student would calculate out to about the equivalent of 12 students. So keep that in mind when I say this number. So not actual students gone, but the total weighted add-on is 193. That's our deficiency in student population. When you just look at physical students in the seats, where that equates, that 193 equates to 130 students, physical students. And so it's about 5.5% loss in student ADM, or student population.
How will that impact next year's budget?
We have to do, that's something that Vanessa and I have been discussing, and when going around, we asked the principals to provide us with information concerning how many open enrollment students we currently have, how many students who left us for distance learning or for something else due to COVID, how many of them would be returning. So we're collecting that number right now. Some of the rough numbers that we have is that we're about +9. We're going to bring back, of the students that left, we'll be about +9. +66. We have about 66 of the 130 that we know left that will be coming back. We know that some left the mountain, some left. Right. Economics took them other places, right? So we know that we probably will lose some of those. We have 316 students from out of district, the majority of which are from district to the south. We have had a number of open enrollment inquiries over the last couple weeks, specifically to high school and junior high, and even at our elementary school. So we're, when Vanessa and I were talking about where to project the budget, we're confident that we can land in a certain area that would project a little higher than what we are now, just how we're gathering. But when you look at that weighted with add-on, you have to project how many kids that had this disability in this grade level would be coming back, or would we lose, and then multiply that by that. So we're honing it in, and we feel like we have a number kind of between where we were and a number of where we were at, but we feel confident probably get back with our student.
That'd be great. So, speaking of the budget, we're going to be looking at contract offers soon, right? Like, I would hope that we'll be able to do that before May, you know?
Letters of intention.
Letters of intent. and-
Those have gone out. The letters of intent have all gone out and come
Okay.
back.
Okay, great. We didn't know that.
We wanted to get a tighter number on the students that we project coming back, because
Mhm,
it's different if it's a 5.5 loss that we're not going to see a recovery
mhm.
versus we're going to see a bounce back.
Right.
And then we're looking at some numbers from the state. There are districts around us that have already approved teacher contracts for the upcoming year. I can tell you, for instance, in Round Valley, they approved teacher contracts because they had 10% growth.
Wow.
As soon as their mayor came out and said we're not having masks in Round Valley,
Mhm.
there was a mass exodus to Round Valley from everywhere, and that produced students. Now, will that be sustainable? I don't know. They have to do their projections, but at least that's where their budget is. Right, that's where their projections. There have been some that were able to make those projections because their student loss was a little bit lower. But I sent out something to you today. The Navajo County, all the school districts combined, the student population loss was 4.77%.
Mhm.
So we were just a little higher than the average.
Right. Okay, so you're feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to start working on contract offerings then, and knowing kind of where we're going to be and what we can offer for next contract year?
I feel like the conversations Vanessa and I have have narrowed us in on the number that we would be projecting on, and that gets us closer to.
Okay. And the money that you were talking about with the relief, how soon will we be seeing those dollars, like in the 3.1 million?
Access to the 3.1 is currently available. I will tell you, there's been a couple applications because it's like a grant. You have to say we're going to do it for this, and then you have to budget your budget categories, and then you have to say we're expending it for this, and and then they have to approve it. And it's ran by the state. It's not ran by the ADE. It's ran by the state.
Okay.
And so there have been a number of applications from districts around that have been rejected, just because they haven't met the criteria.
Okay.
But some districts, you'll hear districts who are trying to buy buses with it. You have districts that are trying to add, air purifiers and stuff to every classroom, ionizers to the air conditioning units. Some are putting in air conditioning where they had swamp coolers. That's what they're trying to do with it, and they're trying to justify it around spending of COVID. But like, for example, if we wanted to spend it on a classroom set of desks that has tables in there, it might be an easy justification to say, well, we got to move the tables out so we can spread the students out further and get that. You have to justify it.
Right. Well, one of the things that I was thinking about, and I didn't know if it was something that could be used with that money or if that we could even find the money, but I kind of feel like the heroes in this last year, this crazy year, have been our staff members, and I would love to see us be able to offer some type of a stipend or some type of a COVID relief, I don't know, for showing up to work every day. I mean, is that something that might fall under it? Or is it?
That's expressly prohibited in
That's
the
the
grant.
number one no-no.
Okay.
And I think they did that because they knew everyone would want to do that. Right? Just what you're saying. But it's there are just a couple of things that are expressly prohibited, and that is.
Darn it. Okay, well,
but what we're going to do is we're going to bring that first that 3.1 million consideration to the budget committee, and each of these committees will allow them to brainstorm and figure out, well, where can we best use it? What might fit into and we'll give them the criteria that's laid out so they can apply the litmus. But the cool thing about the second one and the first one, you could go all the way back to March 13th when lockdown happened. But I can tell you from Vanessa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that she wants to go back to another fiscal year. There's a lot of accounting and journaling and stuff that has to happen if you go over to another fiscal year. So I'm trying to keep it in this fiscal year and recapture maybe things that we expended in our M&O or capital that would be considered COVID, so that we can carry over our existing M&O and capital into the next school year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And get that taken.
Would becoming fully one-to-one with Chromebooks, would that fall under the category?
Well, that's why we were able to purchase the first set of.
Right, so would we be
yeah,
able to
anything-
purchase more to become truly
anything
one-to-one?
technology-wise, whether it's infrastructure, increase in broadband, all of that stuff follows. So basically, if it falls under Title I, II, or IV, it's a slam dunk. If it falls under technology, it's kind of the same.
So we could get nicer computers for our teachers so they don't have Chromebooks. They could have
That's
something.
that'd be
That's
nice.
been a
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah.
Certainly, we look forward to hearing what the committee, what thoughts they have this. Hopefully, we can bring to you a formalized percentage of commitment, so that we might say we're going to commit 30% of this to this and 40% this, or whatever the breakdown might be.
Well, financially, I mean, do you have a feel like where we might be by the end of this audit, and like if we might have any funds that would be, you know, extra that we could try to do something as a thank you to our staff?
I hope we do. Until we fully reconcile to the county, I really wouldn't feel confident to say at this point.
So you don't feel like what we pay back to the county so far that we fully reconciled with them?
We've fully reconciled the grant,
Okay,
but that's
the only component.
yeah.
Okay,
So
gotcha. Okay.
we're
I
still
see.
working on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hosley. Thank you. Item 7.2, approval and agreement for the district and Navajo County Special Services Consortium for the 21-22 school year. Mrs. Beecroft.
So as in years past, the district contracts with the county for the Special Services Consortium. These are basically for services that are hard to find. The speech language pathologists and the occupational therapists. So this is something that we've done previously. And there's attachments here from Ms. Marsh on the continuing need for those services, where we're not able to, those are hard to fill positions. If you look right now, almost every district on the mountain wants one. So that's pretty typical to fill those needs through the consortium.
Can I just give you an idea of what the consortium feels? They provide service for 6,500 hours of therapy to the districts that are members of the consortium. So that's quite a bit. And I was on the meeting where they were talking about the consortium met. They were talking about this, and the consortium members almost unanimously all said, "But we need more." And so they just can't get the therapists and the amount of service hours that they need. So this is important part.
I make motion to approve the Special Services Consortium membership agreement as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.3, approval of memberships in purchasing cooperatives. Mrs. Beecroft.
So this is something I've been kind of working on throughout the year, is to leverage the district's purchasing power of K-12 public schools nationwide. It's typical for districts and government agencies to kind of band together and be members of these cooperatives. In my opinion, we've not utilized it to our advantage very much. So I'm really trying to aggressively pursue like what cooperatives we can be a part of, what's going to save us money, what can bring value and efficiencies to the district. Approval, I'm requesting for membership into the Purchasing Cooperative of America and Choice Partners National Purchasing Cooperative. Power School, one of our big software contracts, I've already reached out to them, letting them know, hey, we're now going to be part of this cooperative. Like, what discount can we get? So that's already in the works. Before we renew contracts for next year, I want to get letters out saying, you know, we have this. And it's been a positive response. I mean, they're not happy because now they have to give us a discount, but it's good for the school. Like, the savings will be significant. So
thanks for pursuing that.
Yes, it's great. I motion to approve membership in purchasing cooperative as presented.
Oh, sorry, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7.4, approval of InTouch receipting as district payment portal.
So this is the first big thing after kind of thinking and brainstorming about what we can do with the purchasing cooperative. automatically we're members of the SAVE, which is based on a City of Mesa cooperative. I mean, anything they have, we can piggyback on, which is fantastic because they have a lot more resources to put into that. There's a program, it's called In Touch Reseeding, and we are going to, I'm hoping that we will implement the program. It's a one-stop shop. There's a couple of attachments there, the brochure. Basically what it will allow us to do is we can, if I work at a school and I'm the financial secretary, someone comes in, I can take cash, I can take check, I can swipe a credit card. If the mom and dad want to do that at home, it's an easy interface. They can pay online, they can pay tax credit. If I want to pay for Susie's camp and the athletic fee and buy a yearbook, I can do that all together. It's seamless. It goes, the transaction, no cash, less cash is going to be received and have to be calculated and touched and deposited and tracked. It's automatic and it goes right to the bank account. So this will extremely lower the volume of traffic just to pay student fees, coming in to pay athletic fees. Anything that the student would need to pay will be online. Tax credit will be a big thing. We can push that all day long on the website. I think Scottsdale Unified, they use this program. And within the first month of just putting it on their website, not necessarily advertising it or pushing it, they brought in over $130,000 in tax credit. So not that we're big as Scottsdale, but I think because it's convenient. You can go online, no more just, we can pay by check, they can use their credit card, they never have to come to the school. It prints them a receipt, it emails it to them, which they can then print, and it has, let's say in a year, because you know this, Kelly, I lost that receipt, I need it from last tax season, do you have it? It saves everything, and it serves as a huge piece for the audit because the cash handling, money coming in. So I'm pretty excited about it. I know that there's a lot of fundraising that the schools do. You can put, it's customizable. Like, so let's say I work at the junior high, we're going to be doing a fundraiser for the student council. It can all go right there. They can customize it how they want. It can be pushed out to the website. The parents can go in the office or do it from home. They can buy something on the fundraiser. They can pay for athletics. Like I said, let's say you overpay. Right now we do a lot of refunds, you know, because last year everything was canceled. And so this year, let's say I paid money in for my kiddo to go to a camp. Instead of going in and say, hey, now I need that money back, you can go on there and decide, I want to keep it on my account because I know my kid's going to need lunch money or he's going to play fall sports, so I'm going to save it for that. Like, so it kind of alleviates the need to do a lot of refunds. And of course, if they want a refund, we can do that. But it's just going to make us a lot more efficient and bring us up to a level of services that we really need.
Is this getting used for admissions into games and events?
It can.
Is it expensive though, like per transaction? Is there a minimum amount?
There's not a minimum, and compared to other offers, it's 30 cents or 3 cents, sorry, per transaction. So it's much lower than a standard credit card fee, and that's the only ongoing fee.
Would we have to purchase anything extra? Because, you know, I was looking at how many units of different things we were getting. If we were going to use it for ticketing, are we already getting what we would need for that, or would that be additional purchases?
For the ticketing, you would have to get like the card readers. So that's something that we would talk about, because I know currently they use Register My Athlete. Are you talking about just for the gates?
I was talking about the gate. Yeah.
Okay. So just for the gates, we could have, there's like an iPad. They can have it there. People can still use the card. They can still use cash. So
that would be something we'd have to buy in addition to what we're the proposal right now.
I don't think the athletics is on there. No, it would be minimal compared to what the setup at the school would be.
Right.
So
be nice to be all inclusive to start with everything.
How would it work would PTSOs be able to use it as well, or since they have completely separate checking accounts, would they not be able to?
Yeah, the district doesn't delve into or They're kind of their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the brochure makes it sound like it can do everything. So I was just curious what all
We're not
really
going to
sold
do
you on this
F.
stuff.
it never ends. And so
I
I just
know.
want to be clear, well, what parts are we taking advantage of?
So the main one is for the front office secretaries to do all the student fees, all the, any fees that we take. The tax credit is big. Anything where parents or community members are making payments to the school.
Okay.
We're just going to make it efficient. They can do it online. They can do it via credit card. Just making it easy. So there's things as you get down the road. The athletics would probably be an additional conversation once we get there. I know right now our food service department uses a different program. This does integrate with that program. So let's say mom goes in and pays, it does show up in here that like they have, like, let's say if it was in arrears and they owed it, a balance, that would also show up. And it does integrate fully with Visions and with Power School.
Wonderful.
So,
Well, I will make a motion to approve the In Touch resitting as our district payment portal.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8.1 through 8.4 consent agenda. Ms. Beecroft.
So for your review and approval, we have the ratification of the expense vouchers for the past month, as well as the ratification of payroll vouchers and the approval of the governing board minutes for the February meeting and the approval of donation. Looks like Jenny Murray received a donation for some of her class, for her PE class.
I make motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great spring break.
Thank you. Enjoy your break.
Didn't think we were going to get to that part, did you?